Hi guys, in a previous lesson we investigated how we can create and identify fractions. For example, if we want to make 3/4, we start with a whole, half it and then half it again to make 4 equal parts, label each of those parts, and then we identify the parts that we need. Today we're going to investigate how to create equivalent fractions, fractions that are equal to one another. To begin with, let's get thinking. The children have drawn fractions to represent their donut portions. With a partner, I want you to discuss what fraction of a donut do they each have, and then I want you to match the children whose portions are the same size. So pause the video for a few minutes, discuss your thoughts with your partner, and then share your thinking with the rest of the class. Let's look at Ralph's portion to begin with. His donut has been split into 3 equal parts, so each of those parts are thirds. He's only got 2 of those parts, so we can say that Ralph has got 2/3. Next, let's look at Luna. Luna's donut has been split into 4 equal parts, so Luna's got quarters. She's only got 3 of those 4 parts, so Luna has 3/4. Ron's donut has been split into 6 equal parts, so he's got 6. He's only got 2 of those parts, so we can say that Ron has 2/6 of a donut. Lisa's donut has been split into 2 equal parts, so she's got halves. But she's only got 1 of those parts, so Lisa has got 1/2. Hermione's donut has been split into 8 equal parts, so she's got 8ths. She's only got 6 of those 8 parts, so Hermione has 6/8 of a donut. Milhouse's donut has been split into 6 equal parts, so Milhouse has got 6ths. He's only got 3 of those parts, so Milhouse has got 3/6. Harry's donut has also been cut into 6 equal parts, so he's also got 6ths. He's only got 4 of those parts, so Harry has 4/6 of a donut. And Martin's donut has been split into 3 equal parts, so Martin has thirds. He's only got 1 of those parts, so Martin has 1/3 of a donut. Let's match the children with the same size portion. Ralph has 2/3. That's the same as those 4/6 that Harry's got, so Ralph and Harry have got the exact same amount of donut. Luna has 3/4. That's the exact same size as Hermione's 6/8, so Luna and Hermione have got the same amount of donut. Ron has 2/6. That's exactly the same size as Martin's 1/3, so Ron and Martin have the same amount of donut. And finally, Lisa has half a donut. That's exactly the same as Milhouse's 3/6 of a donut, so Lisa and Milhouse have got exactly the same amount of donut. It's time to get investigating with a partner. Emmett goes into a pizza shop and orders half a pizza. The pizza guy takes a whole pizza, cuts it into 2 equal parts, and gives Emmett 1 of those parts. Could the pizza guy have done this in a different way? Could he have cut it into more equal parts and still given Emmett exactly the same amount of pizza? How many different ways can you find? You might want to investigate this by using strips of paper or post-its, or even just drawing the bars themselves. Emmett uses a strip of paper to make 1/2. He folds it into 2 equal parts and labels each part. He then cuts it to leave himself with 1/2. So I want you to use strips of paper, post-its, or draw bars to create fractions that are equal to 1/2. How many different ways can you find? Pause the video for 8 to 10 minutes, investigate that with a partner, and then share your thinking with the rest of the class. Let's discuss what the pizza guy might do to begin with. He might start with that whole pizza and begin by cutting it into 2 equal parts. He can then half each of those parts to create quarters. If he gives 2 of those quarters to Emmett, then that's exactly the same as half of the pizza. And we can demonstrate that using the bar. So here we've got our 1/2. We can start by creating halves with the whole bar. We can then half each of those halves and label each of those parts. We've got 4 quarters there, but we only need 2/4 to be the same as the half. The next thing the pizza might do is start with the whole again, and this time half it again, but this time rather than splitting each of those halves into 2 equal parts, he could split those halves into 3 equal parts. We've got 6 parts altogether, so we've got sixths, but he only needs to give Emmett 3 of those 6 to give him the half pizza again. And again, we can represent that with the bar. Let's start by halving that whole bar. We can cut each of those halves into 3 equal parts. We've created sixths altogether, but we only need 3 of those sixths to be the same as 1/2. Or he could start with that whole pizza again. Once again, half it into 2 equal parts, but this time let's half each of those halves to make quarters, and then half each of those quarters to make 8 equal parts. So he's made eighths. He only needs to give Emmett 4 of those eighths to be the same as that half pizza. And again, we can show that using the bar. Let's start with our halves. Let's cut each of those halves into 4 equal parts. We've got 8 parts altogether, so each of those parts are 1/8, but we only need 4 of those eighths to be the same as the half. And we could keep going. We could start with our halves again, but this time let's split each of the halves into 5 equal parts. We've made 10 parts altogether, so we can label each of those parts as 1/10, but we only need 5 of those tenths to be the same as 1/2. We could keep going on and on, cutting each of those halves into 6 parts and 7 parts and so on. The pizza guy is giving Emmett exactly the same amount of pizza each time. All he's doing is giving himself more work the more parts he splits them into. We can say that each of those fractions that we created are equivalent to 1/2. It's time to discuss our success criteria. So with a partner, I want you to discuss the steps that you can go through in order to create any equivalent fraction. Pause the video for a few minutes, discuss that with your partner, and then share your thinking with the rest of the class. When we were wanting to create fractions equivalent to 1/2, the first thing we did was we created the fractions themselves by splitting the whole into equal parts. So we split those wholes into 2 parts to create our halves. Once we did that, we decided how many parts to split each of those halves into. So we could split each of those halves into the same number of parts. Here we're splitting each half into 2 parts and then again into 3 parts. Once we've done that, we can then name each of those parts. So you can see there, where we split each half into 2 parts, we've created quarters, and where we split each half into 3 parts, we've created sixths. And finally, we just need to identify the parts that we're interested in. 2 of those quarters is the same as 1/2, and 3 of those sixths is the same as 1/2. It's time to try that out. Can we use that success criteria in order to make equivalent fractions and solve the following problems? The Avengers are ordering pizza and Black Widow is saying, "I would like 1/4 of a pizza, please." The Hulk would like 3/4, Nick would like 1/3, and Captain America would like 2/3. Can you show the pizza guy different ways he could cut the pizzas so that they each get the exact amount of pizza they want? So use strips of paper, post-its, draw bars in order to create equivalent fractions to each of those. If you want to go for the mild challenge, can you create at least 1 equivalent portion for each of them? If you want to go for the spicy challenge, can you create 2 to 3 equivalent portions? And if you want to go for the extra hot challenge, have a go at creating 4 or more equivalent portions. So pause the video for 10 minutes or so, have a go at those, and then share those with the rest of the class. It's time to reflect on today's learning. So as a class or with a partner, I want you to discuss the following questions. What have you learned today? What did you find easy or difficult? Did you get stuck? What helped you when something got tricky? What do you need more help with? What is really making you think? And what are your next steps? The last thing I'd like you to do today is, can you apply what we've learned? So as a class, I'd like you to discuss, analyse and solve the following problem. Professor Snape and Lando are both reading the same book. Professor Snape has read half of the book. Lando has read 3/5 of the book. Who has read more? And if you manage that, what if Professor Snape had read 2/3 of the book? Thanks for joining me again today. I hope you enjoyed that. As ever, if you've got any questions or you'd like to share any of your solutions with me, you can contact me at scott.morrow@southayrshire.gov.uk and you can follow me on Twitter at scottmorrowsa. Next week, we're going to continue looking at equivalent fractions when we're going to be comparing fractions. I hope you can join me then.